The work we have here today is the sarcophagus with the abduction of Persephone by Hades, which research has shown was created somewhere around 200 to 220 AD. This is a Roman relief sculpture to honor the dead. It is interesting to note that this relief is made out of marble, signifying Roman hierarchy, as they would have been the most common people to pay for the marble sarcophagus.
The marble sarcophagus is much like a register, depicting time and space. Think about Ashurbanipal and the Lion Hunt, as well as the Bayeux Tapestry. All three tell a story using time and space. Even though the materials are different, the theme and use of spatial concepts stay the same.
This depiction is typical of this time period in Rome. The Romans began adopting other cultural identities, but also kept their own originality. Think about the Portuous Temple. The Romans used Greek Ionic columns and curled volutes at the top. However, they added an axial plan, putting their own spin on a Greek idea. Another example would be the amphoras that the Romans adopted from the Greeks.
Originally, the Romans used cremation as their primary burial process. However, with their recent conquests and eclectic ways, they began to use sarcophagi as the primary method for their burial. These ideas were taken from the Greek and Etruscan cultures.
In addition, the Romans were also extremely interested in Greek mythology. They loved showing Greek mythology in Roman works. For example, Cupid and the Augustus of Prima Porta. This work and Cupid showed that Augustus was in the lineage of the gods.
Everything here seems to scale. Cupid in the right corner, above the horses, symbolizing the lust and desire Hades has for Persephone. The way the clothing is carved seems to convey movement, much like the clothing that was seen in the Arapaces.
There is a lot of emotion being portrayed. It is almost like we get a sense of the agony and sadness that is being displayed by the figures. They are sorrowful for the abduction. The figure's body structure and hair carved in this work are typical of Roman works of art. Many of the figures resemble figures in the Sarcophagus and the Trajan column.
When we think about sarcophagi, the sarcophagus of Junius Bassus comes to mind. Unlike Junius Bassus, the columns depicted here are more Ionic and Greek. However, a similarity is that both sarcophagi use the column to start and finish a scene. The Romans enjoyed using columns to extenuate their architecture and work of art. The depth of carving in the sarcophagus of Junius Bassus is much deeper and more defined. It is easy to depict who each figure represents. In the sarcophagus, with the abduction, each figure is less defined and harder to interpret.
In this sarcophagus, they depicted the Greek myth that told a story. The myth states that Persephone, the daughter of the Greek god of harvest, is abducted by Hades, the Greek god of the underworld. Demeter, the mother, is so distraught that she stops looking after the land. As a result, Zeus, Persephone's father, steps in and demands that Persephone be released. Before this is done, Hades feeds Persephone a pomegranate seed, making her his wife eternally for part of every year. Like the pomegranate plant, Persephone will return once a year to Hades.
I think that having a sarcophagus with this message is very fitting. The Romans are showing, with this message, the true cycle of life. You have Demeter to represent life and fertility, and then you have Hades, who represents death in a form of afterlife. It is almost fitting that Hades is talking to Persephone to the afterlife, much like the sarcophagus is taking the body to their afterlife.